I bought a truck.
Welcome back to Ed's Garage. That's right, I bought a 2022 Rivian R1T. This is the quad motor, 835 horsepower, drag racing beast of a truck. And today I'm going to tell you why you might want to buy yourself a truck. Maybe not this one, maybe a different one, maybe this one, I don't know. There are some things that we'll go over, obviously, some good things, some bad things, some fun things, some terrifying things. But this truck, I've now had for about 6 months. Now, if you've been with me on this channel for the last 6 months, you'll know I've done some videos about certain pieces of the truck, and you probably already figured out that I own this truck. If not though, well, welcome back. It's been a little while. Nice to see you again. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment below if you have any, well, let's say opinions about electric vehicles. I'd love to hear them. I'll probably ignore them if they're bad opinions, but I might respond, we'll see. But anyway, today what I want to do is give you a little tour of the, well, not a little tour, I'm going to give you the full tour of the 22 Rivian R1T. So this is kind of like a long-term review. But keep in mind, the new Rivians, the brand new ones that are out today, the 2025 models, they're actually not that, I mean, they're pretty different, but this video will still be relevant to you if you are looking at purchasing a brand new Rivian. And if you are, I envy you because you have a lot of money. Yeah, I bought this used. I imported it from the United States because I don't have a whole lot of money, especially now since, big news, I no longer work at Bannister Hyundai. So all of my future videos are going to be completely devoid of me saying, welcome back to Ed's Garage at Bannister Hyundai. I might still go there and do reviews on some of their vehicles. Not might, I definitely will. But I'm no longer employed by Bannister Hyundai. So if you're watching this video and you'd like to help me out for the future, please, I beg you, hit subscribe and comment below. Share this video with your Rivian friends if you find it fun and entertaining and interesting. But yeah, I'm going to show you absolutely everything about this truck. So let's get started. Now, first off, some apologies for the audio. I'm using these Rode mics, these little wireless lavalier mic here, and it doesn't work with my camera if I go USB-C to USB-C. I used to do it, and while it does record audio, there's a lot of different artifacts and glitches in the sound. So I gave up using that cable and I switched to an aux jack, like a mini DIN jack to USB-C. And ever since then, it's been seamless and it's worked. However, if I talk too loud, it really starts to clip on the high end. So apologies for that. I will try to talk at a reasonable vocal level. All right, so what I want to do here today is kind of show you everything about this vehicle from the front to the back to the inside to some of the things that I've done to kind of make this my own vehicle. So starting on the front, this is obviously where an EV truck is vastly different from a gas truck. So I have a front trunk, obviously, so I can open this up. Now, a lot of people like to say that EV trucks can't really do trucky things. Well, that's absolutely bull. A lot of people like to say that EVs can't do trucky things. EV trucks can't do EV truck things, and therefore they're not trucks. Well, I'm going to correct you there because an EV truck is absolutely 100% a truck. And as a matter of fact, let me give you some examples. One bag. There are 6 more bags in there. All right, so there were 5 more, so 6 total large bags full of bottles and cans, a whole bunch of oil bottles, about 150 square feet of flooring, and an old hot tub cover smashed into 4 squares, as well as a bunch of old paint cans. So yeah, trucky thing. There is something you can do that every other truck owner can't do though, and that is this. I mean, obviously you saw the bottles in there, but groceries without bags or bins. That's right, this is about $300 worth of groceries. Now, obviously today, my front trunk is not full of groceries. It's full of air. I don't actually have a whole lot in here, but this is kind of cool. Let me show you around a little bit. So here in the front trunk, you can see there's actually quite a bit of space. I don't know how many cubic feet it is, but I'll throw that up on the screen just so you can get an idea. But it looks like this is it, but really it's not. Actually, let me get my straps out of here and check this out. If I open this up and then open that up, look at that. Look at all that extra space in there. That goes down to, well, let's see, about there. I don't know if that, yeah, it's about another 6 inches down. So I've got all of my recovery equipment in here, some tools, etc. Check this out. I got my new tool bag. I got the pole to hold open the back hatch, which I'll show you guys in a bit. Now this does, of course, have, whoops. Now this does, of course, have a safety release mechanism right here because it, is quite a large trunk. You could easily put somebody in there. It's got an LED light. Comes with a nice little sort of burrito thing here for whatnot. I keep my bug spray in there and my hatchet. So yeah, very, very useful space. I really quite like this. And of course, under the hood, it is insulated with some plastic here. And of course, it's power, so I can use Alexa to open and close it, or I can just press the button on the front. Now, the button on the front is down under right here above the license plate. It's kind of offset to one side. Now, you'll notice it says Rivian here. That is not factory. I 3D printed those letters and put them on there. I've got a video on that on my how-to page. So LED projection headlights and high beams, some really, really good headlights and high beams, and then this whole thing lights up as well. It'll light up in green when it's charging, and it'll light up white when it's just your daytime running light. Now the newer ones do have a little bit of a different design there, so the newer ones basically can do some different things with their lighting that this one can't. Now, because this is an adventure truck, it does have some really super crazy beefy tow points here, recovery points, and then along the side, while the new ones do get the Tesla NACS port, this one just has the CCS, the combined charging system. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you can open this up and then go to a fast charging station. Now it'll charge at around 200 kilowatts most of the time when you're on a Tesla supercharger. I think the max is 230 kilowatts. It is a 135 kilowatt hour battery. So let me close this hood here so I can show you the rest of the front. So we got the Rivian badge on the hood there. Up in the windshield, you do see the forward-facing camera and the rain sensor. And then there is another little sensor up there. I'm not 100% sure what that does off the top of my head. I'll see if I can figure that out. And in the front, there are parking sensors. So there's some sensors in the front and sensors on the back as well. You'll also notice on the front, we have the air curtain pass-through right here. I always love talking about that on Hyundais. Well, the Rivian has it as well. So it's coming out right here. That creates a curtain of air over the front wheels to reduce aerodynamic drag. Well, there's also inside here somewhere, I'm not even sure where it is, oh, right here, sorry, there's active shutters that open and close. And that brings me to the first small problem that I've had with this truck. I got this thing stuck in the mud, which you can see in this video here, and had to get it pulled out with another truck using a snatch block, etc. But that little active flap thing got so caked with mud and sand that it wasn't able to open anymore. So I had a thermal system fault going on, and the truck really didn't like it, and I had to take it to Rivian, which brings up the second issue with having a Rivian, and that is that there's very, very few service locations for these trucks. So the closest one to where I live is 2 hours away. However, I will say this, the service there was absolutely phenomenal. They gave me a loaner Rivian truck to use in the meantime, no questions asked. They just did it. It was pretty awesome in that regard. So those are the two problems so far in this video, because as you'll see later, there are, however, a few more issues. Anyway, let's keep looking at this vehicle. So if we go around to the charging port here, it is a CCS, combined charging system. You can see it is currently charging. So you just kind of flop this little door down to get to the CCS fast charging plug. The door button to open and close it is right there. It's a soft button. I don't know if you can see that, but that's where that is. You'll also notice that the truck currently is very, very low to the ground, and that's because it has something called kneel. So when you park the vehicle, it will actually lower down to the ground because it has four-point active suspension, basically using airbags to raise and lower the truck front and rear. It's pretty awesome. And there's even more to that technology, which I'll show you a little later in the camping screen. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I have no idea what this other sensor is. Now this is for the lane keep assist system and you know, that sort of thing. I have no idea what this one is for. So if you know what that's for, comment below, let me know. I also forgot to point out there is a front-facing camera. It's right there. So, well, obviously there's 3 front-facing cameras, but that one is for the surround camera system. There is a lot of cameras on this vehicle. I guess there's actually 5 front-facing cameras because there's one right here as well, one right here looking back, and then there's a really, really sort of wide-angle lens one looking right there. Now, if you're thinking, geez, why couldn't this guy clean his truck before doing the video? I thought about it. As a matter of fact, I have my pressure washer. Actually, that's right. It's right outside. I was like, I have it right here. It's right outside. It was ready to go. I was going to clean my trailer as well. And I thought, you know what? No, it's an adventure truck. It should be dirty. Trucks should be dirty. I don't have a problem with a dirty truck. And on top of that, my wife and I are actually going to go take my trailer up the road probably tomorrow. And that's really dirty and dusty. So washing it today and then getting it dirty tomorrow just didn't make any sense. Anyway. Looking down the side here, you can see we've got some massive 20-inch wheels. Now these are aluminum alloy wheels and they're currently wrapped in BFG KO3s, but that's not the tire that these would have come with. They came with Pirelli Scorpions, I believe, for off-road tires. And then the non-off-roady, I don't know what the hell those were. But yeah, this is aluminum alloy wheel, but look at the size of the brake caliper. So 6 piston brake calipers. There's 3 pistons per side, per wheel, front wheels. They're massive, massive brakes. And that brings me to the 3rd issue that I've had with this vehicle. Now remember, I've only had this vehicle since last December, only about 6 months, which isn't very long, and I've had a lot of little issues with it. So the issue that I had was that the brakes were actually wearing unevenly. It's a very, very heavy truck, and apparently for heavy trucks, it's fairly common. Yeah, it's only got about 40,000 kilometers on it, and the inner pads on both front wheels and the inner pads in both rear wheels were all pretty much done. So the front ones were much worse. They were down to about 2 millimeters, which is just under 1/8 of an inch. But yeah, they were very, very low, and the outer pads were still really, really good. They were easily 8-9 millimeters. So a little disappointing that there's so much uneven wear on these brakes. Now these brakes don't even really get used that often because of course the regenerative braking on these vehicles is quite strong. I mean, when you have very, very strong electric motors, you essentially also have very, very strong electric generators, and the regen braking is pretty awesome. They're one pedal driving, and the brake pads don't get used very often. But I do a lot of off-roading, so I'm coming down a lot of steep hills, and I don't know, maybe that did something, but I've only put about 10,000 kilometers on this since buying it, so I gotta put some of that blame on the previous owner as well. But yeah, so I digress. It's a necessary evil with these trucks, I guess. What I will do though is after 20,000 kilometers, I'm gonna take those pads out and swap them around because they're thankfully identical for the inner and outer pad. They look exactly the same. I don't know if that's something you should actually do, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So anyway, going further down the side of the truck, you can see I've got some rock sliders on here. These are from EV Sportline. They're pretty crazy beefy rock sliders. Let me show you the bottom of the truck actually while we're here, and you can see what the sliders look like as well. So having a look at the rock slider, you can see it's a nice flat bottom. This actually is part of the rock slider, and then right here is the battery pack, and this one does have the underbody shield, and that brings me to another problem. Now the problem isn't something has gone wrong with anything, it's just by design. It's a little bit silly. The underbody shield extends from the front of the battery pack to the back of the battery pack. But in front of the underbody shield, there's a composite cover, skid plate, covering the front motor and a composite cover covering the rear motor. And I don't know how strong that is. Now, the underbody shield and the battery can apparently withstand, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember reading correctly, 12,000 pounds per square inch of the, that's almost twice the weight of the truck on a spot this big. That's pretty incredible. The underbody shield is awesome, and it's obviously very, very important if you're gonna do a lot of off-roading. Now, the problem that I have, though, is with the front of the truck. Now, these actually have an incredibly good approach angle. The departure angle is not bad, but the approach angle is fantastic. But when it fails on you, you tend to hit things, and this front skid plate is just straight up plastic. And as you can see, I've got a big dent there in the plastic. Again, it is just plastic, so I don't really care, but how can you put a 12,000 pound per square inch underbody shield under the battery and then have a plastic front skid plate? Yeah, companies do weird things sometimes. So anyway, so that is definitely a point that I'm going to need to upgrade. And the funny thing is that the underbody protection that you can buy does not extend all the way to the bumper like that piece does. It just covers, it replaces that composite piece in between the front wheels. So while that's a good idea to get, I really wish there was some sort of replacement to that silly piece of plastic in the front. All right, so mirrors. Yes, mirrors are great. They are power folding, so when you lock the doors, the mirrors and the handles fold out of the way. They both, of course, have the marker lights, which is nice. And then, of course, yeah, the typical things, like it does have blind spot monitor on there. So yeah, that's all well and good. Further back, we have our first quite unique thing that a typical ICE truck can't do. Now, when I say ICE truck, that's internal combustion engine truck. Now, the funny thing is that an ICE truck could do this, but Rivian thought of it first, and that is the gear tunnel that you saw at the beginning of the video. Now, very, very minor little thing here. The way to open this up is, there's three ways. There's the phone app. You can use the phone app to open the gear tunnel doors. There's the screen inside. You can swipe in and hit open gear tunnel. But the way that would be easiest is to just hit the button. There is a button for this, and this is my minor gripe. If you decide to put on a canopy, which by the way, nobody makes yet, so I had to make this one myself, so excuse the funny lookingness of it. If you're wondering what's going on in here, these are just all the parts that I use to seal up my little slider. This thing goes inside there, it slides out, and then I can sleep in it. And then these are like Velcro things, and these are the pads that go. Long story short, that's what I sleep in. Don't worry about what the canopy looks like. But the button to get in here is right about there, I think, somewhere in there. Now, I can cheat using something long and flat-ish or small enough. There we go. And that's how I currently open it from the outside without using any tools. Normally I would just use my phone, but obviously I'm using that to film. So in here, this is where this truck starts to really differentiate from the competition. Now, I know that there is another truck that does this now, and that's cool. I think more trucks should do this. It makes perfect sense. The rear seat, you know, it's not going to be straight up and down. So the rear seat has generally a bunch of space behind it. There's also the tonneau cover, which kind of hides, I believe, right here, which would kind of normally negate that space. So it's kind of cool that they just moved the box forward a little bit, made room for the tonneau cover, and then added this gear tunnel. And let me tell you, the gear tunnel has been one of the coolest things about this truck so far. It's one of the most useful storage compartments that I've used so far. Not just because it's storage, but also because it's a place to stand. So if I need to get up onto the roof while I'm cleaning it, maybe I'm doing something with my canopy or whatever. I've got this cool light post that I could stick into there, and it sits really high. I actually did a video on that as well. but basically lights up the whole campsite. So when I need to get that in, I stand on the other gear tunnel door to do that. So it's really quite useful. And the other cool thing about the gear tunnel is that on this side, you can see there's a 110 volt power outlet, and on the other side is a 12 volt regular power outlet. And of course, the whole thing's lit up by LED lights. Now, there's accessories that you can buy for this as well, also from EV Sportline. I'll try to put links in the description to that website. But check this out, they even thought of this. They put a first aid kit in the door here, and then the other side also has a little compartment that stores the air hose. Because this has a built-in air pump for the air suspension, you can also use it, I don't know if it's the same air pump, I imagine it must be. You can also use it to pump the tires back up as well. Super cool. All right, so now we're gonna have a look at the back of the truck. So I'm just opening the garage to get the door out of the way. Now, keep in mind, I do have my canopy on here, so I'm gonna try to show you a little bit about the back of the truck here, but it's gonna be a little tricky because of the canopy, but you'll get the idea. All right, so the reason I had the door closed is because there's some siding going on next to us here, so it's a little bit noisy. Apologies for that. But anyway, so tailgate's open. Now the tailgate does open with the push of a button, which is right here. It's pretty cool. And as I mentioned before, there is a power tonneau cover. If I can press that button, and the tonneau cover comes out. We're gonna go ahead and put that back in though. And then the box is fully lined. It's all plastic lined inside here. There's some really nice beefy tie downs in all four corners. Here's our little air compressor right here, which we can set to whatever pressure we want. And there comes, I think we're on to number 5, the 5th issue with the vehicle so far, and that is with the air compressor. So when you set the pressure, the first tire will go up to the correct pressure, and then if you don't change the pressure and hit set again, the next tire will just blow past it and go like 10 PSI too high. So I've taken it to Rivian, I've had a mobile tech look at it, they've reset it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's been flaky. I just know to, reset it every single time. Hasn't been a big deal. Now, the box is a 4.5 foot, roughly 4.5 foot length box, but the tailgate sticks out quite far, extending the box length from the back to here to about 6.5 feet, if I remember correctly. And that's actually been quite useful because when my slider's in there, the slider comes to about here, and I can then sleep in there. I can also throw an 8x4 sheet of plywood in here without problems. So yeah, don't tell me this isn't a truck. It's very, very useful. As you can see, currently it's very dirty because I have been using it as a truck. Now here's another cool thing you can't do with a typical ICE vehicle, and that is you have 2 110 volt power outlets, and in total, the 110 volt power output is up to about 1,500 watts. It'll go a little beyond that when necessary, but 1,500 watts of continuous power output. That's awesome. That means I can run a table saw off of this plug, and I've done that. It works. All right, so also here is, this is another issue I have with the truck. It's kind of a silly problem. It's not a problem, it's just a bad design choice. And that is, there is a under bed floor storage thing, and it's for the spare tire. Now, when the spare tire is needed, you better hope that you don't have a box full of stuff. When the Honda Ridgeline came out and they put the spare tire underneath the bed floor, I thought it was the dumbest thing, and I criticized them to no end because of that. Because if you have a box full of dirt, or several bags of concrete or whatever inside the box, you're not going to be pulling that spare tire out. Now, thankfully most tires can be patched with a patch kit. I've actually got a video on how to do that as well. So if you look up Ed's Garage, how to fix a tire, how to fix a flat, you'll find that. So I haven't had to take the spare tire out yet. So far I haven't actually had any flats on this truck. But if I did, if it was just a hole in the tire, I would just patch it. I wouldn't bother putting the spare tire on. But if you need the spare tire and the box is full of stuff, that's going to be a big pain in the butt. Now, one thing I really do like about the tailgate in this is that it has a gooseneck hinge. Check this out. So that's what the gooseneck hinge looks like. And what that does is it allows the tailgate to come out quite far. And then, of course, it has this little cover here. So far, it hasn't been an issue. I mean, keep in mind, this truck has 45,000 kilometers on it now. And so far, all of that is working great. It's not getting dirty or caked with sand or anything like that. It's been working really, really nicely. Slight gripe I have with the tailgate is the weight of it. It does have soft open, but putting it back up, it is a bit of a heavier tailgate. I mean, it's not that heavy, and I just, you know, clamped that pipe in here, which is probably not good. But yeah, tailgate's a little bit heavier for my liking. But anyway, let's close this up again, and I'll show you some stuff on the back real quick. All right, on the back of the Rivian, we do have LED lighting all the way across, of course. And there's the parking sensors there, as you can see. Parking sensors on the side here, of course. Nowadays, that's important for all the technical crap to function. We have the backup camera right here. It does come with a tow hitch pre-installed, which is nice. This can tow 11,000 pounds. Now, obviously, it's not going to tow it that far, but it can tow 11,000 pounds. It does have the 7-pin connection here with built-in trailer brake controller. And you can even set different profiles for your trailers so that it knows when you plug the trailer in, you know, how much range you're going to get because you have a trailer. Obviously, you're going to have diminished range. All right, so that's your quick overview of the outside of the truck. But let's quickly talk some adventure truck credentials here. So right now, this truck is sitting very, very low. But for a production truck, this is one of the most capable off-road trucks you can buy from the factory. For one thing, it goes from 7 inches of ground clearance, which is not very much, but it's great for on-road use, to 15 inches, wow, 14.7 inches of ground clearance. To give you an idea how much that is, I had to ask my wife. She said it was about this much, which crushed my hopes and dreams slightly. But anyway, let me show you on a tape measure, just so that there's no lying about this. Geez, that's 8? Holy cow. All right, so 15 inches is that much right there. That's a lot, okay? It doesn't look like much right here, but I'm telling you, for a production vehicle, that's quite a bit. This thing can go over some pretty big rocks and logs and trees, and yeah, I've proven that. However, that's what brings me to number 6 of my list of annoyances, and that is, though it has 4 motors, there's no way to lock in the speed of both of the front wheels or both of the rear wheels together. What I mean by that is, on a lot of newer EV trucks, what you'll see is e-lockers, electronic lockers, or faux lockers. Kind of hard to explain what that is, but if you've got 2 motors, right, one for each wheel on the front or the back, the software can slow down one of the wheels to match how fast the other wheel is going, or speed it up. That's basically a fake locker. It's an electronic fake locker, and this doesn't have that. It doesn't have the option. The fact that it has 4 motors is great, because that means when one wheel on the front is slipping and one wheel on the back is slipping, it's not really a big deal, because the other 2 can just kind of pull it through. Or if 3 wheels are slipping and one motor isn't, again, not a big deal, because the other one will carry you through anyway. But not having the ability to lock the rotational speed of each wheel provides a bit of an issue, and that is, you can start to slide a bit if it starts to dig holes. That's not good for the trail. If you're on sand or if you're on snow, you know, that spinning wheel that's not getting any grip can just dig deeper, deeper, deeper until you finally hopefully do start to move. If you have grip on the front left wheel, there's no need for the front wheel to be spinning. It should just be going the same speed that the other one is going. And not having those e-lockers, I don't even know what you would call them. An e-locker or an electronic locker is actually a mechanical device that locks the center differential of vehicles that have differentials, which is almost every vehicle. This doesn't have differentials. There's no connectivity between a left wheel and a right wheel. It's just connected directly to the motor. There's no differential. So not having that ability basically means that if you are going to be going through kind of a rutted trail, you could potentially make the trail worse, which is, you know, fun for a lot of people, but not so much fun for a lot of other people. So that's issue number 6 that I have with it. But let's get back to that ground clearance for a moment. So this is one of the coolest features of this truck, is being able to raise and lower the truck whenever you want to. So I'm going to show you what that looks like compared to how it's sitting right now. Well, there you have it, 14.7 inches of ground clearance. The tape measure is about 3 inches wide. So yeah, super useful, especially when, you know, crawling over big rocks and whatnot. Now, in its highest setting like this, you can't go more than about 30 kilometers an hour, 20 miles per hour. And that's for good reason. As you can see, the suspension is very stretched out. There's a lot of room in here. But speaking of this suspension, actually, let's take a peek inside there, see what that looks like. Now this, of course, has 4-corner independent suspension. And there you can see that big air tank right up there and the airbag system. Basically, there's a inflatable bag up in this tube here. But yeah, all of this, of course, is aluminum. It's all super beefy. And check it out, it actually has a very unique CV shaft, the CV axle here. The reason it gets thicker in that spot there is because it's kind of a yoke sleeve situation. The CV axles can actually get longer and shorter as necessary. Now that's actually quite unusual. I was only able to find one other vehicle that had that. It was some Volvo from a few years ago. But yeah, the CV axles, normally between each of the CV joints, there's a solid shaft. But on the Rivian, it's not solid, and that's the weird thing. It's 2 pieces, and one is kind of a slip yoke over top of the other. That's pretty cool. And the reason for that is because when you get it that high, and then you start turning and going over bumps and whatnot, if the CV axles weren't long enough, the front would have pretty terrible droop. But what you want in an off-roader is good articulation. Now, compared to a Jeep, this does not have good articulation because it has 4-corner independent suspension. It does not have a solid axle, obviously, going between the front wheels or the back wheels because each of the wheels is connected to its own motor. However, for, you know, independent suspension, IFS and IRS, because it's in the rear as well, the articulation is actually pretty darn good. Now the rear suspension is far less interesting, but let's have a look at it nonetheless. I'll get the flashlight up in there. As you can see, there's our big airbag tank thing. And again, yeah, independent suspension. Slight weird issue. You'll notice that the lines coming in there for the system are kind of hanging down. I would be worried that that's going to get caught on something when off-roading. So far, so good. Hasn't happened yet. But, you know, that is one of the lower hanging things there. So that's a little bit confusing. You'll also notice just how incredibly flat the bottom of the vehicle is. There's, you know, aside from those things, there's nothing hanging down. This is one vehicle where, you know, driving directly over the big rock may actually be, you know, the safer way of doing it. You might scrape the hell out of the bottom and you might damage some of the composite covering there, but if it's your only choice, it might actually work out better for you. Obviously, you always want to try to keep your wheels on the rocks and maybe the rock sliders, but in this case, you know, the last thing you want is to fall off a rock and land on one of these. As a matter of fact, in Rivian's promotional series Long Way Up, where they, you know, followed Ewan McGregor and his buddy, I can't remember the name of, in electric bikes, they were off-road and hit a rock and did just that. They damaged one of those systems there underneath. So it is a bit of a vulnerable spot. So as long as you're aware of it though, you can get around it. If you're off-roading, you just got to remember that the inside of all of the wheels are the danger points. Try to get your wheel over the rock, not beside it. And if there is no other choice, put the rock down the center. But geez, if you can avoid doing that, you should, because, you know, dragging a rock down the center, even with that underbody shield, not a good idea. All right, so that pretty much covers everything on the outside of the vehicle and some of the off-road credentials. More of the off-roady things we'll talk about when we get into the front seat. But for now, let's first jump into the back seat area and see what that looks like. You'll notice, first off, the doors do open up pretty far. However, the ingress is a bit small. So part of the reason is, of course, because the gear tunnel wall kind of comes pretty far forwards here. But it's reasonable. As far as comfort goes, you know, we do have padding on the armrest there. We have a nice Meridian audio system, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and some good storage in the door pocket here, good for a large bottle. You know, the fact that it moves is quite nice. The rear seat itself does come up, so if you need some extra storage, there is a bunch of extra storage underneath here. So currently I've got my air hose and my first aid kit in there. Underneath the other seat, however, can't do it from here, apparently I gotta do it from the other side, is this. This is the subwoofer for the Meridian system. I think the sound actually kind of pipes out of here, but it's a subwoofer, so it kind of rattles through the whole vehicle. So kind of nice that they tucked that away underneath there. That's pretty common though. Now this is not real leather, it's a faux leather material, but it's pretty nice. It's very, very hard wearing. Cool little stripe up the center here, and of course the Rivian badge in the back of the seat. The seat backs themselves, this is pretty cool. We've got a nice little hook to hang stuff. There's a USB-C port here that is backlit. There's one in the other seat as well. And then there's a couple of USB-C ports right here below the screen, which I'll talk about in a moment as well. And then each of the seat backs do have seat back pockets. They're not the most useful things on the planet. You know, some smaller items can fit in there. That's fine, but that's about it. But anyway, let's get into the back of the vehicle and just see what kind of legroom, headroom situation we're dealing with here. Now, these front seats are currently placed for somebody at 6'2" to comfortably sit. And as you can see, I've got plenty of room in front of my knees. Even on this side, mind you, this seat is currently retracted a little bit because I have the easy access in and out thing set up. So yeah, no problem with headroom, legroom, everything is great in here. It's very, very comfortable. The seat back is not too straight up or anything like that. It's quite nice. There's also a nice little spot here to place a cell phone if you're not using it. And then of course, two little cup holders as well. And it's a nice cushioned armrest to boot. So yeah, pretty comfortable place to be. Good USB access. The doors, they do have that nice ambient lighting in there, and you can actually change the color of the ambient lighting, which is pretty cool. Got LED lights everywhere and grab handles everywhere as well. Now let's have a look at this little screen down in the center here. This screen is for a couple different things. We can control the music playback from here. We can turn on the power outlets from here as well. So basically all of your power outlets, the 12 volt outlets and the 110 volt outlets, you can set them up so that they're not on all the time. Basically, it just gives you the option to turn them on or off, you know, for a specific amount of time. You can also set up to auto. Now, these seats back here are also heated. So as you can see, left seat, right seat is heated. We can see our compass, which is kind of cool. And if we tap that, it brings up a full compass screen. It'll also show us our navigation system when we're navigating, so that's kind of nice. But we can turn on rear climate control from here as well. So let's turn that on. So there we go. There's our rear climate control. We can lock and unlock the doors from here. We can go to, yeah, this is part of the hotspot system. So as long as you have Hyundai's Rivian's telematics system, you can actually have a hotspot in the vehicle for any of the passengers in the vehicle. So that's kind of cool. Tell you what, lights here. Lights just allow you to turn on and off the cabin lights. And as I mentioned, two USB ports right there, which are backlit at night as well. And then of course we have two fan outlets here, which you can move around, which is nice. But there is also air coming out below the seats. Speaking of which, there's a little bit of room under the seat, not a whole lot. It does kind of stop abruptly right here because of course that's where the vents pumping air out. So you can't really put your feet underneath the seat much. You can kind of on the one side, but not on the other side. But anyway, it's a pretty comfortable place to be. So very, very well done. We do, of course, have the huge panoramic sunroof on this, and that brings me to my next complaint. I think we're on number 7 here. It's too dark. It's kind of useless. I mean, looking up at it right now, you can see I've got my lighting set up here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I did that so that we get a little bit more light in here while I'm filming. But I mean, those lights are really, really bright. And the tint in this glass, as you can see, is really killing them. Look at this. I mean, those are really bright lights. So the tint on the roof here is just far too dark for my liking. I would have preferred, you know, electric cover to cover the whole thing, and then something you could open and close whenever you wanted it. Because I really like a sunroof, and not having a sunroof that I can really look through is kind of annoying. I mean, yeah, you can look through it. If it's a bright, super crazy, bright, sunny day, it's somewhat usable. And I say somewhat because it's not that usable. So that's gripe number 7. Minor thing. It's not a failure point. It's just a design issue that I disagree with. What I do definitely agree with is the use of materials, though. This is a nice suede material. The fake leather is actually really quite nice as well. All the materials on the doors, we got some fake leather here. We have open grain wood everywhere, which is awesome. There's a little bit of plastic, but it's not much. You know, this is cloth covered. This looks like metal. It's just plastic. Plastic there. Grill cover there is plastic, but this is all fake leather. This is all fake leather, soft touch, and then that nice wood finish is a nice touch. So it does feel very premium in here. Now, this does bring me to another problem that I forgot to mention earlier, and that is I've actually had a wheel hub replaced. One of the hub bearings had failed on the passenger side of the front here. 40,000-ish kilometers, and a wheel bearing was done, needed to be replaced. So that would be issue number 8. That is actually a failure though, so that's not great. All right, now let's see what the passenger gets to live with in the Rivian R1T. So it's still currently at its maximum ride height, so you'll notice getting in right now is going to be a bit of a thing, but we're going to look at the seat first. So first off, on the passenger seat, it is a power passenger seat, which is nice. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-way adjustable power. So that includes tilt as well as height, and a 4-way lower back support. One thing I thought was kind of weird, this split right here, this looks like it's coming apart. It's actually not. When you tilt the seat, that's actually where it separates. I noticed that first on the driver's side. Kind of an odd thing. It almost looks like the molding is coming off. Now, interesting fact about these seats, apparently the seat structure is made by Hyundai. Yes, Hyundai, not Rivian. It's apparently the same seat structure as the Ioniq 5. It does look totally different than the Ioniq 5 because they welded a whole bunch of extra points onto it for, you know, things like the headrests and whatnot. And of course the leather is all different and whatnot as well. So it looks totally different, but it feels at least as comfortable as the Ioniq 5 seats, which are really, really comfortable seats. Hyundai makes their own seats and they sell them clearly to other brands. On the door, you can see we've got a fairly large door pocket here, a decent amount of space in there. So if you do want to put like a big bottle or something like that. And I like how this actually comes out. That's quite cool. The only thing I worry about is after a while if those are going to wear out. Again, lots of nice soft touch materials all over the door, and you get that cool LED backlighting, ambient lighting in there. Neat little thing right here. Actually, it's got the Rivian logo on this sort of brushed aluminum looking piece of plastic here. This is plastic, but again, soft touch materials on the dashboard, top and everything. And that beautiful open grain wood finish with Rivian embossed right into there. Now this happens to be, as you can see right here, the Adventurous Forever. It's got the Adventure package. This is not the, what do they call that? The Launch Edition. However, it has all of the same features as the Launch Edition. So as far as what you get in the Launch Edition or in this one, it's basically identical. Now, first thing I want to point out, this screen that's sitting up here, this is not factory. This is something that I added in. to add Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. So in case you're wondering what that is, there is a video for that as well. If I remember correctly, I will put that into the description below in case you'd like to check that out. Now, what else can we talk about for the passenger side? Well, I do have a grab handle here. Again, suede headliner, nice lighting and whatnot, but there's really not much else to talk about in the passenger seat. There is 2 buttons here for the center console, so I can press this one here. It opens up both center console doors. But other than that, I mean, the passenger doesn't really have anything special here. It is dual zone automatic climate control, so I can, you know, change the temperature of the passenger side, increase and decrease the heated seat and ventilated seat settings right on the right-hand side of the screen. Right here, you can see we've got the seat controls as well as the climate controls here. And when you tap in the middle, it does bring up the climate controls screen. But we're going to talk all about the screen a little bit later. First, I want to go over the driver's side. So that's it in the passenger side. So great legroom, great headroom. Check this out. If I do move the seat all the way back, you can see just how much space I do indeed have up here. Now, of course, the space in the back is now gone, but yeah, look at that. So just an absolute boatload of space above my head, and I cannot touch the very back or very front now of the footwell. It's too far away. So lots of legroom and headroom, even though this is considered a smaller truck. Before I open up the driver's door, I just want to show you there is indeed little lights in the door handles, which is kind of nice. And it's not just the front handles, it's all of the door handles. And as a matter of fact, there's also lights that shine on the floor. It's not doing it right now. I think you have to lock and unlock the doors or something. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. You can see the Rivian logo on the floor there. That's actually coming from underneath the mirror right there, and it's on both sides. So actually, while I'm showing you this, this is the key fob here. It's meant to look like a carabiner, which is kind of neat. Can't actually be used as a carabiner, but it does look like one. You've got the lock, unlock, and then the tailgate button and front trunk button on here. But yeah, when we lock it, there we go, everything closes up, and you'll notice the lock sound sounds like a bird tweeting right now, so that's kind of neat. If it's dark out, it's an owl hooting. So that, yeah, tweeting during the day, hooting at night, and of course that's a setting that you can change within the infotainment system. So anyway, let's have a look at the driver's side here. So driver's side seat is exactly the same, no difference. It's the same controls as the passenger side. It's a 12-way power adjustable driver's seat. All right, but now that we're inside the vehicle, I want to go over all of the features with you on the inside of the Rivian. But I do want to also take the vehicle for a drive. So this next little bit is going to get quite long. If you don't care about every single individual feature in the infotainment system and instrument cluster, feel free to skip ahead probably 15 minutes or so to the drive because this is going to get long. I'm going to cover absolutely every individual little thing on this vehicle inside the and at the driver's position. So having said that, let's start at the left and make our way to the center and up. So on the left, we do have auto up and down on all 4 windows. So you can very quickly open and close all 4 windows. And what's really nice about that is you can also do things like that from your cell phone using the Rivian app. You don't need to subscribe to their service for that. You can do a lot of stuff from the app. On the left side of the steering wheel, we've got the turn signal stalk. Now this, of course, is the button for your windshield washer. So if you press that, that will wash the windows, just like that. And we have our windshield wiper controls here. It does have auto wipers, as I mentioned, but you can turn them on manually using this button right here. So we're going to go ahead and put those on auto. This right here is for your lighting controls, but lights are also automatic, so you don't necessarily ever need to use this. But here's your different settings. So you've got lights off all the time, you've got parking lights, automatic headlights, of course, with your automatic high beams, lights on, fog lights on, and lights on, and then high beams, lights and all fog lights. So basically there's front and rear fog lights. You can have all of the fog lights on or just the front fog lights on. So yeah, a lot of control here, a lot of customization. And then to turn on the high beams, normally we just push the stock away from you, but it does, of course, have auto high beams. And I'm happy to say that the auto high beams actually work exceptionally well. That is one thing that I'm finding this vehicle does really, really well is auto high beams. It's not too slow. It'll shut the high beams off at the very hint of a car coming towards you. So really, really good system. Now, of course, this is also your turn signal stock, and what's nice about the turn signals is that it does show you, I'm going to have to put the vehicle in drive for this, but it'll actually show you a view of the side of the vehicle when you put the turn signal on. Now, these cameras aren't the most high quality cameras, but the fact that it has that capability is quite nice. So there you can see the right hand camera, and you'll notice it says Ed's Garage there because the button on the steering wheel right here is now able to control the garage door. So it shows you, okay, you can cancel that, the middle doesn't do anything, and the right button is to open up the garage door. Now that's sort of a recurring theme in this vehicle. The buttons on the steering wheel control multiple different things, and sometimes they control things when other times they don't. So that garage door button, as an example, only works when the vehicle is at your home. If you have a secondary place where you need to control the garage door, it doesn't work. There's only one location you can use to set that up. Same goes for the auto lock, auto unlock system. You can set it up so that it doesn't do that at your home. So for instance, if you park in a garage like me and you don't want the doors to automatically lock when you leave the vehicle and sit there locking and unlocking the whole time, you can set it up so that it doesn't do that. But the problem in doing that is that, when you're somewhere else, let's say you're at work, there's no option to disable that auto lock, auto unlock thing at your work. So if you work close to the vehicle, your doors are going to lock and unlock quite often, and that's kind of annoying. I would actually set that as my 9th kind of annoyance failure with the vehicle. But anyway, having said that, every vehicle has its weird things, eccentricities, and is that even a word? And that's one of them on this vehicle that you just get used to. Okay, on the other side of the steering wheel is the drive control. So basically, or the shifter rather. So basically, to put it into drive with your foot on the brake, you're going to push that down. To put it into reverse, you're going to push it up. And to put it into park, you're going to press the end of it. Now, if you want to put it into neutral, you kind of have to hold it. I think it's down for a couple seconds. Yeah, there we go. So now it's in neutral, and then we're going to press the end for park. There we go. Now, pushing the stock forwards or backwards doesn't do anything. However, you'll notice there's a little icon right here. I'm just going to zoom in on that. So if you're in drive, you're driving down the road, and you want to turn on the cruise control, you push the stock down. Okay, and if you want to put it on highway drive assistance, then you push the stock down twice, and it'll put it into drive assistance. And that brings me to my 10th gripe on this vehicle. If you own a Rivian and you think that the highway drive assist is really good, you clearly haven't driven something with a better system. And that is a lot of different vehicles. The GM cruise system, the whatever they call it, Smart Cruise or whatever, is absolutely phenomenal. Tesla's autopilot, very, very, very good. Even Hyundai's highway drive assistance, these lights keep turning off. Even Hyundai's automatic drive assistance or highway drive assistance is superior to what's in this very expensive Rivian. You can get highway drive assistance on a Hyundai that costs $40,000 that absolutely blows away the system in this Rivian that is, $100 plus $150,000 vehicle. So that's a big gripe that I have. I can't stand it. I never use it. Highway drive assistance is aggravating. The adaptive cruise control, while it does work well, it has a big flaw, I find anyways, a big flaw where if you're driving on the freeway and you're coming up to a curve that it thinks you can't do the speed that you're doing around that curve, it will slow down. And that's super frustrating because then you get cars behind you, flashing their lights and they're like, what are you doing? There are places where this vehicle can easily go around a corner at a higher rate of speed than what you have your cruise control set on, and the vehicle will slow down to take the corner. It's super, super frustrating. I hate it. So I rarely use cruise control in this vehicle, where on my previous vehicle, the Hyundai Ioniq 6, I used it all the time. And even that's adaptive cruise control. I didn't like that much, but it was night and day better than this one. The highway drive assistance on this vehicle, it does a good job holding its lane. It does a good job keeping distance. The lane switching thing kind of works when you put your turn signal on. It knows that you want to switch lanes, and it kind of lets you go, and then it automatically switches the turn signal off, and all of that. It works, but not well. As an example, they recently did an update to add turn signals off automatically when you did a lane change on the highway. What they didn't do was let that work when you weren't on the highway. So there are places where the highway is not mapped yet, and you put your turn signal on, to switch lanes without thinking about it, and it doesn't turn itself back off. So you have to remember to turn it off. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem turning my turn signal off. It's not an issue. And it was never an issue until Rivian made it an issue by adding the system where it turns itself off. Now that's the de facto thing that I'm expecting to happen. So sometimes I forget to turn turn signal off because I'm on a highway. It's just not mapped yet. Kind of annoying. And then if you're not on a mapped highway, or you're just not on a highway and you do it, you still have to remember to turn signal off. It's honestly kind of stupid. So their highway drive assistance software is pretty terrible when you put it up against a lot of other companies. Now, I won't say every other company, because I'm sure there are some that are worse, but the one in the system is not very good. Now, it does have the momentary signal thing where you tap the stock, it'll flash 3 times. I do wish that they would add the option to have it flash more than 3 times, like 5 and 7, for instance. But yeah, that's one other thing. So when you push it down, you'll notice that the stock returns to the exact same height here, even when you push it down all the way, and the signal will stay on. So to turn it off, you can press it a second time or press it up, or the opposite direction, and it'll turn the signal off. So that does take a little bit of getting used to, but anyway. On the steering wheel, on the left-hand side, we have 3 buttons, one of which is a scroll, and on the right-hand side, we have 3 buttons, one of which is a scroll. So these buttons do multiple different things. So essentially, most of the time, this is going to be your volume control, as you can see there in the screen. This will be your next song or previous song, or next preset, previous preset, if you're listening to some form of radio. This is also a mute button. So if you press it, it will mute, or it will pause. So if it's radio that you're listening to, like AM, FM, Sirius XM radio, then you can mute it. And if you're listening to something where you can actually skip tracks, then it'll be a pause button. Now, when you're adjusting your mirrors or steering wheel, these things do something else. So I'll show you that in a bit. On the right-hand side of the steering wheel, what this mostly is for your cruise control adjustments. So once you've set your cruise control or highway drive assistance, you can use these 2 buttons to increase and decrease the speed. This doesn't really get used much at all. I can't even really think of the different things that this works for, other than adjusting your right-hand side mirror and steering wheel. So yeah, I'm probably missing something, but I can't remember what else this does. And then, of course, you got your horn in the middle, pretty straightforward. All right, but let's quickly adjust the steering wheel with those buttons, just so you can see how that works. So if I go to the main screen here and I tap my name, I can actually go to steering wheel adjustment and side mirror adjustment. So I'm going to go to steering wheel adjustment, and you'll see it says, okay, use the little scroll wheels to adjust the steering wheel. So this one right here will adjust the reach of the steering wheel, or this is basically the telescopic portion. So you'll notice steering wheel is moving there. And then this one is for the tilt. So that'll tilt the steering wheel up and down. Now, if we want to change the mirrors, let's tap the mirrors there. All of these now are for the right mirror. So this will increase the height of the mirror, so raise and lower the mirror. Who says it that way, Edward? Come on. So yeah, this will raise and lower the mirror, and then this will move the mirror in or out. So that's how that works. And then this one is basically the exact same thing on that mirror. Now, once you've done that, you can actually remember that position, or you can hit restore if you don't like the way that you just set it all up, and it'll go back to the position that you had it in. Now, that'll remember not just your mirrors, but also your, your steering wheel, your mirror position, as well as your seating position. So that is what those things do when you're controlling, your comfortable position. But otherwise, when you're driving, yeah, you got your sort of media controls on this side and cruise control on this side. I do, however, have another gripe here. So I think I'm at 10th or 11th. There's no resume button. Not sure why that is. There's no way to resume cruise control. And it's stupid because this is increase and decrease the speed that you're going. This is to increase and decrease the distance that you're following the car in front of you. But why not make that resume? It makes no sense. And that's not built into this either. So, you set your cruise speed or whatever, and you adjust it and you adjust the distance. But then if you hit the brake and then you want to resume, there's no resume. So that is a bit of an annoyance. It's not, again, not a failure. It's just an annoyance, and it's stupid. They could have easily added a resume function in there. All right, let's have a look at the instrument cluster and just see how that's laid out real quick. So on the left-hand side here, and this is where these buttons actually have an additional function. On the left-hand side, you have, right now we're looking at our efficiency screen, and I have a huge problem with this efficiency screen. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and put the vehicle into drive, and auto hold is turned on, so I can take my foot off the brake and I don't have to worry about it. And hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate the issue that I have with this. I'm going to move forward just a tad here, just so it knows that I'm quote-unquote driving. We'll see if that does anything. Okay. So right now we're looking at the efficiency screen. Right above that we have our rough location, Harrison Hot Springs, where I live, and we're facing north. Okay. On the bottom left-hand corner, it shows that our seatbelt's not on, auto wipers are on, and the headlights are currently on. And right in the middle, it's showing what's going on with the parking sensors. So that's cool. And then right on the right-hand side here, it shows the current height that we have the suspension set to. So it says standard height, approximately 410 kilometers of range. And then our current battery percentage. Right here is which gear we're in, and right here is that we're on auto hold. Now, normally what we're going to see there is our speedometer. So as we start to drive, it'll show us how fast we're going. But here's the issue I have. Okay, first off, with this efficiency screen. Now, there are more things to look at here, but I'm going to talk about the two gripes I have with what's on the screen right now. So, the efficiency screen, right now, we're not moving. And yet this little green line is showing up because, I don't know, it assumes that we're getting good efficiency, even though we're not actually driving. If you've driven for a bit and you come to a stop, this will start to show insanely high rates of efficiency when you're not moving. Now remember, this is how many kilometers or miles you're driving per kilowatt hour. If you're not moving, it should be 0 or lower, not, high numbers. But for whatever reason, they screwed up on this system and it shows the wrong efficiency information. So let's give this a few minutes. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's a messed up system. On the right-hand side, the range estimate is not realistic at all. Maybe it is for people who drive 5 kilometers under the speed limit all the time, and who rarely push the accelerator past the quarter way mark. But let's face it, with 835 horsepower and 950 foot-pounds of torque, this is not going to happen very often. People want to accelerate a little bit quicker. People want to drive the speed limit or faster. Not only that, though, it doesn't update with history of how you've been driving. So if you have not been getting the efficiency that's required to get the range that it expects you're going to get, then you're it doesn't update. It just continually tells you the same thing. Every time I charge this vehicle up, whether it's 20 degrees below zero or 20 degrees above zero, whether or not I've been pulling a boat, it doesn't matter. If I give it a full charge, it will tell me that I have 505 kilometers of range on 100%. It never updates. It doesn't look at historical data and update that range estimate. And that's stupid. So, Rivian, I doubt you're watching this, but if somebody there is watching, please use historical data to adjust the range expectation, because it's woefully, woefully inaccurate. I don't care what anyone else has to say. That should not always say 505 kilometers every time I charge the vehicle up. To give you an idea, I get, on average, if I'm taking it easy, about 3 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Well, in order to get 505 kilometers of range on a full charge, I would need that kilometers per kilowatt hour to get up to roughly 3.9 kilometers per kilowatt hour. That would be exceedingly difficult. Maybe if you're driving 50, 60 kilometers an hour everywhere, then sure. But as soon as you hit the highway, there's just no way. On top of that, I really, really wish that the range estimate would adjust accordingly and, in real time. Because if you're driving on the highway, it should realize that, recognize that, and adjust accordingly, and it doesn't. So you cannot use the range estimate on here reliably. It doesn't work. Now, they have recently added a helpful screen. It is in the energy screen here, or it is the energy screen. So this right here will show you in real time your energy use, your consumption information, that sort of thing. It says current drive, last hour, last 15 minutes. This is actually accurate. This works. So right now, we're not moving. We're getting 0 kilometers per kilowatt hour. This actually does make sense. But I suspect that when this hits 15 minutes, you'll see what I'm talking about, and it'll start to be really wrong. Projected range impact essentially will show us how much range we're going to lose or gain versus the expected range. So this is nice to have. But, it should show that change on the estimate here, and it doesn't. So that's not really an estimate. It's a fixed number, and it does not change. It's always 505 kilometers. It is an estimate, but it's always wrong. So that's definitely annoying, and I think that's number 11 for the annoying things that have happened or are happening. Annoying thing number 12, I've had Rivian try to get rid of a wind noise issue that I have right sort of here on the A-pillar, and unfortunately they haven't successfully gotten rid of it. Again, not a huge deal, but it's a little bit annoying. But yeah, we'll continue on. Okay, let's look at some other screens within this instrument cluster. So as I mentioned, the buttons right here do control multiple things on that screen, and to do that, you hold these buttons down instead of just pressing them. So what I'm going to do here, these two buttons, if I hold them down, allow me to cycle left and right on this little section here. So I'm going to hold the right button down, and you see it jumps over, and it shows our tire pressure monitor, which is nice. This is updated in real time. This is updated in real time. Although it does say updated yesterday, if I start driving, it'll start to update a lot quicker. If I hold it down again, I go to the radio. So currently it's listing Bluetooth as the radio source. One more over shows our map. Now this is the built-in navigation system, which is done by Google. Hold it again. There we go, back to the efficiency screen. And that's pretty much everything on that side. Now, let me see if I can show you what the speedometer looks like here without crashing through my garage. So if I'm moving backwards, that's how that comes up. Yeah, I gotta be careful because I'm in a tight position here. So once I get it on the road, maybe we'll have another look at that. I wanted to keep it in drive the entire time here. Okay, so now is the real big long part of the video. But before I get to this screen, I'm just going to show you a couple other things real quick. So up here we have our rear view mirror. It is auto dimming. There's no buttons on it at all. It's just an auto dimming mirror. The visors both have lights and mirrors, and they do both slide out, which is nice. One thing that I really do wish that they had in this vehicle was someplace to put your sunglasses. There isn't one, so we've had to get these little sunglass clips. But other than that, yeah, unfortunately, there's just no good place to put a pair of sunglasses. Down in the center console, we have two wireless chargers, which work reasonably well. They're not cooled or ventilated or anything like that on this year. In case you're wondering what these are deflators. When I go off-roading, these will deflate the tires down to a specific pressure. Yeah, dual wireless charging pads. Now, it doesn't actually look like that. This is a pad that I got off EV Sportline, so that's what the actual pad looks like. It's got a whole bunch of little Rivian logos in it. It's a little bit slippery, which is why I got this silicone mat. And then we have in the center a fairly deep center console, and you can see there are two USB plugs in here, two USB-C plugs. However, if you plug in a USB stick, you can use all of the external cameras, which I'll show you on the screen, for a dash cam system. So it'll record every single camera, which is quite nice. Don't mind the mess in here. It's just, personal stuff, a little vacuum cleaner, that sort of thing. One thing I have a problem with here, so this will be number 12 now, I guess. The USB ports, they stick out sort of this general direction, so when you plug something in, it's going to stick way out. So I have a little 90-degree adapter right here. So this is tucked up against the soft touch material there, and it's kind of out of the way. But if I didn't have this 90-degree angle adapter, this USB stick would be sticking out way to here, and I would wreck that USB port. So kind of a silly design choice there. I'm not sure if they fixed that on later models or not. Right in front of the center console is a cup holder, right? So that can be tucked out of the way. And then we have a bunch of extra storage right down here, right in front of the camp speaker. Check this out. Oh, that's locked, so I need to unlock it first. So I'm going to go to my settings here. Come on. Access. Nope. Connect. Dock. Oh, right. I gotta put it in park first. Unlocked. There we go. So unlock that and pull that out. Okay, so this brings me to 13th, 14th major gripe. Okay, not major. This is the third speaker that I've gotten, I think. Yeah. So it's the fourth speaker for this truck, and it's the third replacement that I've gotten. This camp speaker is the most wonderfully perfect, not perfect, it's one of the best designed Bluetooth speakers that is also one of the worst designed Bluetooth speakers. Let me give you an example as to why. Well, right on the top here, these are the buttons, okay? Not these little holes. Those are lights. The buttons, well, I don't even know what those are. These are the buttons right here, 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 and here, okay? This one here with the tiny little, I don't even know if you can see that, a tiny little circle, that's the power button, believe it or not. The one next to it's obvious, it's minus for volume down. This is your play pause, volume up. And then this one, I have no idea. Looks like Saturn. Yeah. So to turn this thing on, you have to hold the power button for 3 seconds. There. It's now on and everything lit up, okay? To turn it off, you have to hold it down for 3 seconds. I can't remember what that is, which is why I actually keep the instructions here in the vehicle, because honestly, I mean, who remembers this stuff? I'm not going to use this speaker very often. Press the toggle between muting and unmuting the microphone. Mic mute. White off, red muted. Okay. So I guess if you're using this... Oh! It just made noise for some reason. Okay. I don't even know what it's doing. Okay. On the back, inconceivably, there is a button here for the light. Not sure why they didn't just put that on the top here. But the light, if you press it, it turns the light on. If you press it again, it does nothing. Oh no, it just got brighter, I think. Yeah, it gets brighter and then turns off. Okay, so it's got 3 levels of brightness. If you press it twice, it tells you the battery level? If you hold it... You see what I mean? There's so much going on. The sound from this thing is fantastic. The buttons don't make sense. I need to keep the manual in the truck. The description, I need to keep it in the truck because otherwise I don't know what the hell is going on with it. It's so weird and frustrating to control. And I know I'm not the only one. Other people have complained about this ridiculous camp speaker. It's just dumb. Anyway, I'm going to shut it off. Now, the reason that it's been replaced so many times is because that noise that you just heard there, what it would do is I'd be driving along and all of a sudden it would make that noise. It would freak the living hell out of me. I was like, what is going on? And it was in the dock. So when it's in the dock, it's supposed to charge, but it only charges when the vehicle is on. And if you don't remember to turn it off, you put it in the dock, it's supposed to turn itself off, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it stays on, and then the battery drains, and then you hear that noise every 5 minutes, and it freaks the hell out of you. And then you got to stop, and you got to unlock it, take it out, shut it off, which you can't because it's already off, but then it turns itself back on. You see where I'm going with this? It's just not well designed. It's the most well-designed piece of crap. Yeah. So anyway, you can replace the camp speaker with a lock box, which is kind of neat. So I do recommend doing that if you don't use the camp speaker much. I do use the camp speaker because I do a lot of camping. And when it works great. But there's nothing more frustrating than sitting, at a campsite, sitting around the fire with your buds. And you're like, hey, you guys want to listen to some music? And you go get your camp speaker and you think you're all cool. And then you can't turn the damn thing on because it didn't charge ever while it was plugged in. Ugh. Anyway. Or you can't figure out how to get it to connect to Bluetooth, so you got to bring out the manual every time. Yeah, that is definitely one of the things I've had the most fun with in this vehicle. And if you think it's just user error, please understand that I was a computer technician for 17 years before selling cars. I know how Bluetooth speakers work, and I know how those buttons are supposed to work, but I don't think the company that designed the speaker knew how they should make the buttons work. So they did it weird. Anyway, so that's the speaker. Now, in front of this storage location here, there is a USB port. Well, actually, it's a 12-volt outlet right up in here. So that's a good place to plug in 12-volt devices, but it's very, very tucked up there and hidden. It's currently what is running my little aftermarket screen on my dashboard here. So that's what I've got hooked up to that. But without further ado, let's talk about the screen here, and then finally, after all of this, we'll take this thing for a drive, and I will show you some things I absolutely love about it while driving. Okay, so we're going to start with this energy screen just because it is the newest screen in the vehicle. I'm still getting used to this screen, but there's a couple of things that are cool about it. For one, you can quickly change your charge level from the charging screen. So we're going to start with the charging part of the energy screen. So range based on all-purpose. That's no, that's not going to happen. This is kind of cool. We can prepare for fast charging, so we can actually turn on the battery pre-warming system right from here, which is kind of nice. We can turn on the outlets from here. Remember, this is the 120-volt power outlets. So outlets will stay on when you're using the vehicle and turn off when you leave. Well, that's kind of stupid. So the timer allows you to turn them on whenever you need them. Now, right here is the charging amperage. So when you're AC charging, you can reduce the amount of amperage that the vehicle draws. The all-purpose thing here, what that is essentially you have different drive modes So that would be in this menu right here. So right now we're on all-purpose, and that's why it's showing us 408 kilometers. But yeah, look at the absolutely asinine expectation that it has when we put it into conserve mode. So I've got it in conserve. I'm going to go back to the energy screen, and now it says we're going to get 450 kilometers on 90%. I'm telling you, no. There's just, I mean, I shouldn't say there's no way, but you got to be stupid careful to get 450 kilometers of range. This is not like a Hyundai. Hyundai's actually will give you very, very accurate range estimates. This certainly will not. All right, so also on the screen we have this section now. So this is the level that the battery will charge to. Okay, so if you're going on a long road trip, you should probably set it to 100%. There it says 503 kilometers predicted. Again, not going to happen. If I go into, and you can also just choose, you know, base rates here. If I go into graph, it'll show me the charging performance. So basically, if I had just charged it, I would see, if I fast charge it, I would see a line graph as to how well it was able to maintain certain levels of power incoming into the battery. It used, obviously, slow charging the last time I charged it, which I guess is why there's just a solid single line here. You can't really do much with this screen, yeah. It's just kind of an information screen. If I go to schedule, this is where I can set up scheduled charging. So I have mine set to charge between 11 o'clock to 7 in the morning, and the reason for that is because that's when electricity is cheapest for me. Okay, so that is that section there. Over here, oh, the truck just decided that we've been in drive for too long. Over on the right-hand side, it says, okay, last charge session. So it gives me details about the last charging session, how much power went to charging the battery, how much went to AC, that sort of thing, vehicle maintenance, and the outlets. So yeah, if I hit a little icon there, it says, okay, energy delivered to the battery, climate control usage, outlet usage, and vehicle systems. So all of these little eyes, they're just sort of information about what it is you're looking at, which is kind of handy. Okay, flipping over to the energy monitor screen. So on the left here, remember what I was saying, this is the range energy impact, projected range impact. So I just noticed, actually, look at that. That's kind of funny. So this is what the vehicle thinks you're going to gain or lose compared to what its expected range is. But it will give you an idea of that after you've been driving for a few minutes, okay? So if I tap the little icon up in the top right corner, it says, based on your driving efficiency, we can estimate how much energy you'll use during the next hour of driving or the next 24 hours if you're parked. That's right. So it's not necessarily a hit to your overall range. It's just what it thinks you're going to do over the next hour. I don't find that super useful, but it's there. We have our energy use while driving, our energy use while parked. This is handy because I can see in real time how many kilowatt hours I'm using, and that's kind of nice because then I can, use that information to calculate the range myself, rather than have the car do it, which is unfortunate, but at least I have that information. So here you can see just while sitting here and talking, I've used 0.09 kilowatt hours. Energy usage. Graph displays total energy used over the selected time frame. Energy consumption is sampled several times per minute and shown as a trend. Regenerated energy will appear at the bottom of the graph in green. Drive includes propulsion, which will likely account for most of the energy use while driving. Parked removes propulsion and displays the energy use from remaining systems. So the reason this is nice is because if you have a location that you're trying to get to and you really need to calculate your actual consumption, that's where this becomes handy. All right, and of course you can look at the last hour, the last 15 minutes. Now the last 15 minutes, what's interesting is that this one is accurate, whereas the one on the instrument cluster is not. So, yeah. Over on the right-hand side here, session details. So this is just, again, for the last 23 minutes, how much energy you have consumed and what has consumed that energy. All right, and that is the energy screen. So the next one we'll go to, I'm going to swipe up from the bottom here. That's another gripe I have. Every time I swipe up, it's hit or miss as to whether or not it actually does anything. Okay, so we're going to go to the phone screen. Now the phone screen's pretty obvious. It just allows you to type out numbers. Here's where you connect your phone. This does, however, bring up another gripe. But yeah, top left corner you can see your favorites in your phone, your favorite contacts, history, your contact list, the dial pad, and here's where you can quickly swap phones. But the issue that I have with this is a frustrating as hell issue. If my wife jumps in the car first, it connects to her phone instead of my phone, even though I'm the assigned driver. Why is her phone even in my user profile and vice versa? Why? Anyway, so that is gripe number 14, and that is a big one. Actually, that is one of the most annoying things about this vehicle. So if I go to my user count here, you can see I have her as a secondary driver. My phone should be the only phone that's capable of connecting when it's in my driver profile, but it's not. If I go into Connect Now, it shows Leslie's phone as one of the Bluetooth devices. It really shouldn't. That should only come up if we're in her user account. Now, the user accounts control other things like your seating and mirror position and how you have the vehicle set up, which is all great. It should also allow you to select which phone is the default phone that it connects to, and whether or not the other phone is even in there should also be under your control, which it's not. Okay, so that's the phone screen. Gear guard. This is one that is fun. Okay, so road cam is the dash cam, so this is kind of cool. So as you can see on this video here, I love to do off-roading. So let me see if I can actually find a place where we're moving here. Here we go. I'm not sure exactly what happened here, but something happened here that made me hit the record screen. I don't know what it was, but yeah, so this is kind of cool. So I can actually go through and, look at old videos. But here's the really nice thing, okay? I'm going to find a spot that's recognizable. Road here. So right now we're looking at a Y fork in a service road. But check this out. That's the front camera. What if I look at the side camera that's on the mirror? So I'm going to switch to that camera, and I'll hit play here, because you'll notice there's that side road, okay? There it goes. Now if I look at the rear camera, it continues on. Okay, so if I pause that, the side road, actually it's right there. It's a very wide angle lens. There goes that side road. And on the right side, left side, there's just nothing going on. So it's just, trees, rocks, that sort of thing. And then there is also a bed cam, but that's just showing the front of my canopy. So that doesn't show anything. So yeah, pretty cool. If I go to the little menu right over here on the left, this is the settings for the gear guard. We can see there's a lot of different settings. So road cam, this is where it actually sends all that information to the SD card or USB stick. Incidents essentially just means that whenever something happens, if you hit the horn, for instance, it'll record 2 minutes of video. So if you brake hard, hit the horn, or if there's a collision, it'll record a couple minutes of that video and save that so it doesn't get auto-deleted or anything like that. Motion cam records motion and alarm events while you're away. So you can turn this off at home. So if you have the vehicle in a garage and you don't want it to record ever when it sees something in the garage, you can set that. So live cam, this is really nice. Allows remote camera viewing from the app when the vehicle is parked. The downside is you have to have the subscription for that to function. And then alarm flashes, lights and sounds. When alarm is triggered, events will appear in the motion cam tab as well. So that's what all of that is. But let's go back to this screen here, because that was the road cam we were just talking about. Incidents, so these are incidents that occurred on the road. So either hard braking or hit the horn, or hit this little icon up here to save. If you want to quickly save something, you can hit that and it'll save. All right, I found one that actually will show an incident. Check this out. So I did not record this as an incident, but because I hit the brakes hard, it recorded it as an incident. Check this out. Right about here. Oh, there's a deer. There it goes. So yeah, kind of cool, and you can watch it full screen. So yeah, that's the incident camera section, and of course if you want, you can clean these out just by hitting select. You can choose a bunch and then delete them. In this case, we're just going to cancel them. I could also copy them to a USB-C port, so if I wanted to just take these specific videos and copy them to a device, I can do that from here as well. Pretty cool. We're going to cancel that. Motion cam, so this is just motion camera events when the vehicle was parked, of which I have quite a few, and then starred allows you to, if there's a specific event that you want to record, you can do that from here. And I think this, yeah, look at this guy. So this is what I was talking about earlier. If you're on a Forest Service road, do not, I repeat, do not drive on the wrong side of the road around a blind corner, especially when doing a high rate of speed. Look at this dingleberry. So kind of hard to explain, or hard to show in the video here, but he is clearly in my lane. He's only got about a meter between him and the side here. And at the last second, you see he has to swerve to give us space. Yeah, don't be that guy. All right, and that's the start information. So that's the gear guard system there. Pretty cool. So let's see what the next one is. You see that? It didn't do anything. I got to do it a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. There we go. So here is our camping page. So camping is pretty cool. Now there's actually sometimes you'll be able to see this cool image here, and you'll be able to swipe it away. In this case, this is just everything you got here. So camp courtesy. This is kind of cool. So exterior lights, sounds, and proximity locking will turn off. Climate defaults to a quieter level. So we can start that if we're camping in the truck, or we can actually turn climate control off completely, of course, if we're not camping in the truck, but we still want to have the camp courtesy on. This will turn on the side mirror lamps, so that's kind of neat. We can shut the displays off from here. Just tap the display here to turn it back on. There we go. You can also get to the outlets here, but here's one of the cool things you can do. You can level the truck using the built-in ride height control, the air ride suspension system. But it doesn't work everywhere. If the truck is too far off level, it will not work. And that has been a bit of an annoyance for me. I wish that it could do a little bit better job there, but it does at least have it. So that's pretty cool. We have manage energy. So we can keep the vehicle, we can keep power, display, and climate systems on all the time, or we can force them all off, except for the ones that we turn back on. So that's kind of nice. You have that option as well. And that's the camp courtesy screen. All right, let's go back up. Come on. Owner's guide. So this is kind of cool. So you don't necessarily need a paper manual because everything is in here. Like literally everything. This is the entire user manual right on the screen here. Pretty awesome. I really wish, I wonder if there's a trick to this. Come on, there we go. All right, settings we'll get back to in a moment. Video. Is if you have the Connect Plus subscription, you can actually watch YouTube video and streaming video on the screen here. Now, I don't have that, so that's why that's not coming up. All right, let's go to settings. Come on. Yep. All right. Oh, this brings up another gripe. So I think we're at 15 now. So 15. With a system that has this many things, there's a lot of times that things go wrong. And this is one of those times. So I am trying to get to the settings screen, and nothing's happening. So this is a typical glitch. It happens every now and then. And it does allow me to show you another thing that these buttons do, actually. So check this out. I need 2 hands for this. I'm going to set the camera up. If we have a weird systems glitch like this, we're going to reset the system by holding the outer 2 buttons. Now, we can reset the whole car by holding the left button and the hazard button, which is up there. But we're just going to reset the screen here. So I'm going to go ahead and hold these 2 buttons. It's going to beep for a bit. And there we go. It's starting to reset now. Okay. So now I just got to wait for it to come back. So this is definitely gripe number 15. This happens fairly regularly. I would say I need to reset this at least once every 2 weeks. Now, it's not a huge deal. I mean, computers do glitch out. They have their little issues, and it's nice that it's easy to reset. but the fact that it happens as often as it does is kind of annoying. I'm going to take this moment while the systems are rebooting to say this, though. This is a brand new car company. They've only been around now since 2022. Well, they've been around longer than 3 years, but their first ever production vehicle, which is what we're sitting in, is only 3 years old. It's only 3 years ago that they came out with this vehicle. So I can't really be too hard on them, and that's why, despite the fact that I'm at number 15 of gripes and issues and weird annoyances, I still absolutely love this truck. I really do. It's awesome. There is so much to love about this truck. I mean, all of these features are just, they're crazy. Crazy good. All right, there we go. Now, if we wanted to reset the whole car, as I mentioned, I would have held down this button right here. Let's turn that back on. But that's also beside, there's a little microphone there and the SOS button. So it does have emergency services calling with the SOS button. I believe that's a free service. I hope it's free. But anyway, let's go into settings now, which is where we were trying to get to earlier. There we go. Now we got it. Okay, so everything's loaded back up. I only had to reset it once. So, okay. Starting on the very top left, we have vehicle, and within vehicle are all of these things. So if I tap vehicle, if I'm not already in it, we have displays and lighting, access, driver assistance, units updates, and service. Definitely could use an update. So under displays and lighting, so here is basically just our interior interior lighting brightness, and of course we can put that on automatic or we can control it manually. Pretty straightforward. We have a display theme. We've got a day theme, which is all white lit, and we have a night theme, which is all black, and then auto. Here's where we can change our accent lighting. And for some reason it has sounds. We'll turn those off. But you can see there's only a few color options. There's not a whole lot of color choices here. I really like the orange, so I'm going to keep it on that. Overhead light brightness. Okay, so that's cool. I don't know if that's doing anything right now. Interesting. So that is these lights up here, but when you open the door, I guess. So you can change how bright they are. That's kind of nice, I guess. Lights on when doors are open. Obviously, we want to have that on. That just means the interior lights will come on when you open the door. Exterior automatic high beams is turned on. Interactive lighting. Light bars react when you lock or unlock. Pretty straightforward. Light bar when charging, obviously, so light bars will pulse green when charging and stay green at full charge, and turn off when locked. So if you do lock the doors when it's charging, you don't get a whole lot of indication as to what's going on the outside of the vehicle. That's kind of annoying. I think that they should just stay on all the time. Just be cooler. Entry lights, Rivian compass lights the ground upon unlocking the vehicle. So that's those little puddle lamps that came on when I had the door unlocked. Guide lights, lights to help you find your way at night. So that's essentially all the lights on the exterior of the vehicle will stay on after you lock the doors, or if you hit the unlock button. And then charge port light when locked. So while charging, charge port light remains on after locking the vehicle. So that'd be the only one that stays on. So the other ones unfortunately do turn off. Under access, so show quick controls in park. Essentially, when you hit the park button, you do get some quick controls, which are right here as well. So you can just swipe in off the side of the screen to get that. So that's things like, well, I'll show you real quick. So open up the charge door, open up the front trunk, turn on the mirror lights, fold the mirrors in, turn on the cabin lights, open up the gear tunnels, turn on the bed lights, open up the bed. Oh, I accidentally opened up the gear tunnel. Open up the tailgate, sorry, and open or close the tonneau cover. And then if I hit the little button up here, I can put it into car wash mode, pet comfort, which is like dog mode. Shut the displays off real quick from here. I can lock the rear display so that kids in the back can't mess with the controls. I can lock the windows out. And then I can also enable and disable the power outlets from there as well. But generally speaking, yeah, when you put the vehicle into park, that'll just kind of pop up anyway. Door unlock behavior. So as you approach the vehicle, or if you hit the unlock button, all the doors will unlock, or you can just have it set to just unlock the driver's door. Auto unlock and park. So again, as soon as you put the vehicle into park, everything unlocks. Proximity locking. That's when you walk up and everything unlocks. When you walk away, everything locks. You can also use your cell phone as a key, so you don't actually have to ever bring your key with you. You can just do that all from your cell phone, and it works really well, but the range is a little bit too great. It's like 30 feet. That should only be about 10, 15 feet in my opinion, but oops. So that's kind of nice that they have that option, and you can kind of customize how they work as well. So yeah, for whatever reason though, it's only letting me customize one. I don't get the point of that. Okay. Auto relock, so doors lock again after 2 minutes if you unlock them and then don't open up the door. So here's our lock sound. So we have the bluebird, owl, or the night and day option, which will use both of those depending on the time of day. Kneel vehicle upon parking. So this is kind of cool. So you may have noticed early at the beginning of the video, the vehicle was very, very low. That's because when I put the vehicle into park, it kneels down. It lowers all of the suspension and makes it really easy to get in and out. Room entry, exit. Oh, it's currently disabled. I thought I had that turned on. So driver's seat and steering wheel move automatically at the beginning and end of a drive for easier access. Side mirror auto folding, locks when you lock the doors, the side mirrors fold in. Side mirror auto unfolding, they automatically fold out. Side mirror auto tilt when you put the vehicle in reverse. I hate that system, so that's turned off. Rear view and side mirror auto tinting. This is great. So if there's somebody with their high beams on behind you, your side mirrors, not just your rear view mirror, but the side mirrors as well, will tint. Power hood operation, so of course the power front trunk lid, and then power tonneau operation. Again, not sure why you would want that disabled, but that's where that is. Under driver assistance, you can see we have engage adaptive cruise control and highway assist at the speed limit on divided highways. Applies when speed limit is higher than the current vehicle speed. Oh, I guess that's fine. So if you're going over the speed limit and you enable it, it just picks whatever speed you're going. If you're going under the speed limit, automatically sets it to the speed limit of the road. That's cool, actually. Front collision warning warns you of potential collisions with people and vehicles ahead. That's fairly nice. It works quite well with automatic emergency braking. Applies the brakes to mitigate or prevent a collision. Lane departure warning, so it will beep if you start to drift. Sorry, it will vibrate the steering wheel or beep, or both, if you drift out of your lane. Lane keep assist nudges the steering wheel to keep the vehicle centered in the lane. This works okay. It's not great. Blind spot view when you put your turn signal on, as I mentioned earlier in the instrument cluster. Blind spot warning is the light that comes on in the mirror when you have a car in your blind spot. Smart turn signal automatically turns the signal off after a highway lane change, which they really need to update. Go chime alerts you when the vehicle remains stopped after the traffic ahead of you has moved. So if the car ahead of you goes, this vehicle will remind you that, hey, you can go as well. Parking assist warning, so the playing audio alerts when objects are detected. Rear accessory mode, hide rear visual alerts and mute audio warnings while in reverse. Connecting powered accessories limits some driver assistance features. Yeah, so I think that's if you have like a bike rack on the back. You might want to turn that off. Automatic cameras show front camera when park assist detects objects. So as you drive into a parking spot, the cameras will turn on. And I still need to show you the cameras. They're pretty cool. Show front view when shifting from reverse to drive. So if you want the front camera to come on after you've backed up and they've put it into drive, that's what that is. I hate that because why would I want the camera on if I'm going forwards? Show bed in reverse when tailgate's down. Love that feature. So it has the tailgate camera and the bed cam, but if your tailgate camera's down because you're carrying a sheet of plywood, it'll use the bed cam as your backup camera. Pretty smart. Rear cross traffic warning, so if you're backing out of a parking space and something coming from the side, it'll pick that up and let you know. And then of course automatic high beams, which was in the other displays and lighting thing as well. Regenerative braking assist applies brakes to supplement limited regen braking. So if your battery is fully charged and it can't use regen braking, it'll supplement your one pedal driving with regular brakes. Units is where, of course, you can change your units, like miles and kilometers and Celsius and Fahrenheit and pounds per square inch and blah, blah. Updates, here's where you can get updates for the vehicle and also updates for the key fob will show up in here as well. And then under service, you can, this is where you would, if you need to replace your window wipers, you can actually hit this button and it'll put the wipers up so you can clean them or replace them. Screen clean, if you need to clean the screen, so if I hit start cleaning, it says let the cleaning begin using a cloth. You can now clean the screen. So if I do this here, it's not beeping at all, okay? Now, I don't have any screen cleaner, but now if I want to get out of here, I have to hold the done button until that little line is finished, and then it goes back. Smart. Tire change. So, I never, well, I use this, but I don't use it the way they say to use it. So make sure you're in park, switch to your drive mode, switch your drive mode to all-terrain, and choose the highest ride height before changing your tire. What this does is it locks the suspension so that you don't get suspension droop when you're trying to change a tire. It says to put it into the highest ride height, but if you do that, then you need a really high jack. So I actually go to the lowest tire height, or lowest ride height, raise it all up with the jack, and then I turn this on. And that works for me. Wheels and tires, you can basically swap what type of tires you have so that it knows that you might not get the best mileage. It also remembers how many kilometers you have on those particular tires. So that's pretty cool. And then a rotation reminder every 12,000 kilometers. Park brake release. So this is where you would release the emergency brake if you needed to put the vehicle on a flat deck, or if you're, wanting to change the rear brakes or something like that. That's essentially where you would release the rear brakes, the rear parking brakes. Okay. Show and tell, keep screens and lights on while disabling the proximity locking system, SOS call, and horn until you shift to drive or range drops to 48 kilometers. I suppose this works if it's in like a dealership or something like that. Service mode turns off the motion camera, road camera, mobile app commands while your vehicle is being serviced, so service centers will generally use that. Oh, by the way, for the park brake release, if you are doing your own rear brakes, keep in mind that when you do this, it will only release them for 15 minutes. Okay? Vehicle shipping mode. Obviously, the vehicle's being shipped, or if it's on a flat deck, you're going to want to turn that on as well so that the ride height doesn't, well, I don't know what the reason is, but prepares your vehicle for long haul shipping on flatbeds. Make sure your vehicle's in the lowest available ride height before shipping. Okay, that makes sense. Driver position calibration. So recalibrates driver seat and steering wheel position to use profile save driving positions. Okay, so that's just allows you to quickly reset back to what you had, I guess. And then we can also clear settings, remove personal information and preferences from your vehicle. So that's everything within the vehicle setup screen. Now let's go into connect. Okay, so this is where you can connect various devices to the vehicle. So obviously you have your Bluetooth connectivity from here. This is where you can add devices, pair device, that sort of thing. Wi-Fi, again, while it does have the Wi-Fi hotspot capability, which is that icon right there, you need Connect Plus in order for that to work. But you can connect the truck to Wi-Fi. So this is currently on my Wi-Fi connection because if there's an update that the car needs to get, it needs a Wi-Fi connection for that. So here's our hotspot thing. So show hotspot in status bar. That's that right there. I'm going to turn that off because I don't have the Connect Plus subscription. Garages, this is where you can add a garage. Okay, pretty simple. And then the dock is where you can lock and unlock the dock where the camp speaker is. All right, apps. So HD radio, this is essentially if you have HD radio as an option in your area, FM radio will try to use the HD radio signal. If you don't have great reception, then you can turn that off and still potentially listen to FM radio. Alexa, so here's where you can connect your user account to that system. I'm going to just say that system going forward. You can also upload...
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
You can also upload your contacts and stuff like that. So if you use that system to place a phone call using the voice recognition. Oh, by the way, this button right here, if you hold it down, it'll also do that. Cancel, So that's also another function of that button. But yeah, so you can have it pull the contacts from your cell phone. You can share your current location, so allow that to use your current location to provide nearby search and weather services. You can use that as your wake word. That's why I can't say it every time. It'll play the little sound when you say it, or he'll hold the button down. Start of request sound, it just gives you that indication that yes, it's actually processing your request. And then end of request, it'll also play a sound as well. And then you can change the language to anything as long as it's English. Under video, the feature requires Connect Plus subscription, so that's the same thing as what we were looking before. Driver and keys, here's where you can actually add drivers with their cell phones and whatnot so that they can use their phones as the key. Under data privacy, pretty straightforward. You can have it either remember all of this stuff or not. So location sharing for your navigation system, driver assistance features, the mobile app, that system that I can't say the name of. Data analytics, so shares precise location data with Rivian for data analytics, which are used to improve our products and services. So if everybody uses this, then the system will get better. So that's one of the reasons I'm leaving it on. But yeah. Video cameras to improve, develop driver assistance features, same thing. So I'm letting it, send those exterior camera data to Rivian. Hopefully that system gets better over time. It's just your legal use, legal terms and conditions. Upgrades, so here's where you could start the Connect Plus subscription if you want, which includes hotspot connectivity, live cam, which I mentioned earlier, media app streaming, satellite map views in the navigation system, connected voice assistant, so not just your basic Alexa, but I said it again. Cancel. Yeah, so a more capable voice assistant. Priority software updates, so you'll get the updates first versus everyone else. Video app streaming and rich Google Maps. Honestly, I don't like the built-in navigation, so I don't care about all of that stuff. And then about is just about the truck. So you got your your VIN number and all that stuff. So this is just the information about the truck, and it looks like I've got 52,000 kilometers on it now. And as I mentioned, quad motor, all-wheel drive. This is the large battery pack, in Compass yellow with the dark ash wood interior. And that is everything in the setup screen. So under this little swipe up screen, we've pretty much covered all of this stuff, but there is the sort of, the normal ones that stay on the screen all the time. So the first one is navigation. I'm going to have to blur that out because now you know where I live otherwise. So the built-in navigation, it works, but I don't know. I still prefer Google Maps. Now, I am glad to hear that they are going to be using Google Map data more readily, which is going to be better for navigating to charge stations, that sort of thing. So it's good to hear. From what I understand, though, you need to get a lot of that through Connect Plus, and that's a little bit disappointing. But up in the top left-hand corner, you can see we've got the search button if we want to search search for a specific location. We have our favorites button, so if there's specific places that you go all the time, you can put them in your favorites. Delete work because I no longer work there. So that's kind of nice, you have that option. You can also favorite locations that are outside of sort of regular maps, which is handy if you do a lot of off-roading. So if you let's say I go to the search button here, or the star button. There's one right here that just says Fraser Valley. If I hit go, it's going to navigate to that location. The downside is that if you have no internet connection, often this won't work. Now, this road, it is remembered within here. So you can see here it says Tamahai Forest Service Road, and there's another Forest Service Road that continues on here. There is a road that continues on to that point. It just doesn't know where it is. But if you're in the backcountry, then this unfortunately doesn't work. So I'm going to be using OpenStreetMaps going forward for my backcountry navigation, which does thankfully work within Android Auto. So I can use that little screen up there to do all of that stuff. Now on the right hand side of the screen, you can see we've got our current direction that we're facing. We have the plus and minus button to zoom in and out, but you can just use two-finger zoom, which works great. So on the right hand side here, you can see we get the little info button. If I press that, it allows me to send information to Rivian about the map software if it's got a problem. Like, so if it's not picking up the vehicle position properly, or if traffic information is wrong, or there's a road closure, so they they remove the road if there's wrong information or something else. We can actually send that information from there. So that's kind of cool. And then on the bottom right, we have our settings for the navigation system. So we have audio volume. That's just how loud the voice directions are going to be. We have speech or just chimes. We can put the map in 3D, 2D, or north up. And then we can display traffic in there as well. We can clear all the search history. And then under trip preferences, we can avoid highways, ferries, and tolls. We can show it what our preferred arrival range is. So if you do navigate somewhere and it has to add charging stations, if you want to get to your destination with a certain amount of kilometers on it, you can tell it that ahead of time. So that's kind of cool. You can tell it which networks you prefer to use. This is problematic because there are networks that just don't show up in here, which may be preferred. Like, for instance, I'm in Canada. I want Electrify Canada. But if I go to the States, then yeah, of course I would want Electrify America as a preferred station. So this is one of the reasons why I don't really use this software. And then right underneath the settings icon is the little charging icon. So this will just show charging locations. And then this one right here requires the Connect Plus subscription, so that would be satellite maps, okay? And that's navigation in a nutshell. If I go to the Note, that's going to be our radio player. So we have access to a lot of different sources of music, actually. So this is all the different sources of music. So AM, FM, obviously. We have Alexa or Android Music. Sorry, Amazon Music. We have Bluetooth connectivity, obviously. We have Audible, Tidal, TuneIn Music, which is like a streaming service. Apple Music's another streaming service. Spotify is another streaming service, and then SiriusXM satellite radio. And now you can also, move these over. So if I held this down, I can move it over into the favorites list. I don't like Apple, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, now essentially it's going to be up here in the top left, whatever I put in the favorites list. So that's why there is that option. Right here is our settings, so we can move the audio around. We can reset it as well. So if you move it here and then hit that button, I believe it resets. Yeah, there we go. We can customize how the audio sounds. So it's our equalizer. Soundstage, so this essentially, you have sort of 3D surround system here, so you can move where the music feels like it's centered. And then we also have dynamic sound adjustment, so if you speed up, the music will get a little bit louder. So that's essentially what that is there. Really, really nice audio system. I mean, it's not the best in the world, but it's pretty darn good. All right, let's go to the drive screen. So now we're looking at the drivetrain. And this is one of those ones where you can slide over if you just want to see, an image of the vehicle, or if you want to see more information. So our drive modes are all-purpose, conserve, sport, and snow. All-purpose is what you're going to use most often. And when you select all-purpose, or any one of these, it'll actually go to the last ride height that you had selected, but you can also put it on auto. I personally like to use standard ride height in almost all of the different settings here, other than the sport mode. So, once you've kind of chosen what you want, it just remembers that. So all-purpose is going to be all-wheel drive, front and rear. Conserve is just going to be, and this is weird, front-wheel drive. Now, I guess it makes sense because it's a pickup truck and the back doesn't weigh much. So that's, meant to kind of help save you a little bit of energy. There's also, interestingly, there's a little reset button here as well. So if you want to reset what the all-wheel drive or what the all-purpose kind of feels like, you can do that. So that's kind of cool. You can reset these settings for each one of the drive modes as well. So if I go to sport, it's going to say, hey, is it safe to lower ride height? We're going to say, yep, sure, lower the ride height. It's going to automatically lower the ride height to, what I had it in before. It's going to put firm ride feel on, so that's your suspension, it's just tightening it up a bit. It's going to change the regeneration to standard, and then it, in this case, is leaving the stability on. Now, in the sport mode, you only have ride height lowest or low. You can't put it in standard or high, okay? In the all-purpose, you get the different heights: high, standard, and low, but you don't get the lowest ride height. In conserve, you get standard, low, and lowest. Sport, you just get low and lowest. And then snow, you get high, standard, and low. But you can see here, ride height lowers at 72 kilometers an hour. So basically, each one of these drive modes has a sort of a setting that, or has a select set of settings that you can change, but only so far, okay? Now this is great. Ride feel, the suspension, you know, you can go from firm to moderate to soft. It is amazing the difference this actually makes. It is very, very noticeable. Regen, I like to put it on high, so when I lift off the accelerator, the car slows down pretty quick right away. And then stability, of course, we have reduced. And to get to the off, you actually have to hold that down. So it says hold for off. There we go. Stability control is now off. And we'll just put that back on. So that's all of the normal sort of default regular on-road settings. If I go to off-road, however, first thing it's going to want to do is switch us to the highest drive mode, because rock crawl was the last place I was in on the off-road section. But check this out. It has a rally mode, a drift mode, and a soft sand, as well as the rock crawl and all-terrain. So all-terrain gives you the highest setting as well, so it'll have highest, high, and standard. Rock crawl only gives you highest and high. Soft sand, stability control, safety features will not be active, drive with caution. I'm in soft sand, so stability control is just completely disabled now. We have highest, high, and standard. In rally mode, it wants to go to high or standard, and we have ride feel soft or firm, regen high, moderate, or low. And then stability, it's right away automatically on reduced, and of course we can turn it off as well. In drift mode, lower the ride height, and here it says turn off stability or set stability to reduced. Well, let's turn it off. So it's now completely off. Ride height's going to go to standard. Surprisingly, can't go any lower than standard. That's interesting. And then regen on high and ride firm. So there's so much customization here. This is phenomenal. We also have different tow modes. As I mentioned earlier, I've got 2 different trailers. So I've got my camper trailer and I've got my boat trailer, which I don't have set up yet. But you can change how much the camper trailer, or how much the trailer weighs, and it'll try to automatically adjust, you know, the expected range and everything based on all that information. It's not perfect, but it tries. Okay, let's go back to on-road here, and you'll notice we have the drive terrain. So, we have the drivetrain, and it's going to show, you know, the direction of the wheels. It's going to show how much power is going to front and back, that sort of thing. If I put it into conserve mode, what we won't see while we're driving here is power going to the rear wheels. It's going to all be going to the front wheels. So kind of cool. It doesn't show that unless you're moving. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have our compass, which is great, our elevation, which is really nice. You can see the highest I've been is 2,000 meters. That's, I don't know, 6,000 feet or something like that so far. There are higher roads, which hopefully I'll eventually get to. We have our trip computer, trip A, trip B, and we can reset them really quickly by just hitting the reset button there. We can also look at our average speed, how long it's been driving for, and then we can look at kilometers per kilowatt hour or total kilowatt hour consumption. Below that, we have our tire pressure monitor. We have our motor temperature. So again, there are 4 motors. Our battery temperature, and then, yeah, as I mentioned before, we can swipe away on the screen there. So that's everything in the on-road section. Let's go to the trailer section, which again, you'll notice doesn't change that, but the off-road section does change this. We'll just go off-road. I gotta switch to all-terrain. I'm gonna put it back in standard here. I'm just gonna try to keep everything the same for now. There we go. So our all-terrain and off-road is now basically the same as our on-road all-purpose. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see a lot's changed here, because now we have
We still have our compass and elevation, but we have our pitch and roll. This is really nice. So if you're going if you're driving on a shelf road, for instance, you'll see the roll change if the shelf road changes quite a bit. If I move over to the right, you'll notice the image now looks more of like an off-roady image. We have our tire pressure monitor still and our motor temperature. So these two basically have changed. And then, yeah, still all that control over there. So that is pretty much everything in the different drive modes that I can remember. Let's move on to the camera system. All right, so we have our front camera currently on and our top-down camera. Now, obviously, if I put the vehicle into reverse, it'll switch to the rear camera, which is what that looks like. It does, of course, have the dynamic steering lines, which are the yellow lines here and the white line in the middle. So if I turn the steering wheel, it's going to show us roughly where we're going to end up. On the top-down screen, we can actually change this to side view. So if I tap that, it'll show now the front left wheel, rear left wheel and rear right wheel. But if I switch this to forward view, now it shows the front left wheel and the front right wheel. Great for off-roading. If I press this button a third time, it shows me my bed view, which again is not very useful right now. So those are all the different camera views. There's not a billion cameras in this, but the ones that are there are very useful. Okay, so the last thing here is sort of the stuff around the outside of the screen. Actually, there's more. If I tap the climate control button, it brings up our climate control. Here's where we would move our vents around, okay? And we can individually disable a vent. We can turn on defrost from there, turn on, foot air, that sort of thing. We can save this as presets. We can go to the back and change that from here as well. We can have 2 presets for the driver's side, 2 presets for the passenger side. We can turn on our mirror heat from here as well. There's quite a bit of things you can do from here. Here's also where the steering wheel heater is. Now that's can be accessed by pressing the heated seat button as well. There's a steering wheel heat there as well. 3 levels of seat heat, okay, and 3 levels of ventilated seat, but you can actually even touch the seat if you want to turn those things on. So that's pretty cool. We have our climate schedule, so if you want the vehicle to turn on the climate control automatically at given times of the week, you can do so. We can change the level of the automatic system, so there's low, medium, and high. That's not your fan speed, that's actually how aggressive the automatic system is. I mean, obviously that is the fan speed, but it's independent of the temperature, so you can kind of have the temperature that you've got it set to. So I've got it on 23 degrees Celsius here. You can keep that, you can keep it on auto, but you can change the intensity of the automatic system using those two. And it looks like just the fan control, which I guess it is, but it's nice that it keeps it on automatic when you do that. If I press this button right here, now it's no longer auto, and now this becomes the actual fan control, okay? So we want to keep it on auto, and we'll keep it on low. Synchronize just synchronizes the driver's side and passenger side, and then it's all controlled from the driver's side. This is our recirculate button right here, and check this out. Alexa, turn on air recirculation. So we can use Alexa to control all of this. Alexa, turn on my heated seat. There we go. Alexa, turn off my heated seat.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things you can do with the voice recognition system, but one of the most common things is, controlling the climate control, which is pretty cool. And this, of course, will just shut the climate control off completely, which I don't want to do because it is quite warm out right now. So yeah, that's your climate control. Along the bottom here, you can see we've got the seat control, as I mentioned. We've got front defrost, rear defrost. You can also use your voice recognition to turn those things on and off. We have our volume control real quick right here, okay? And then also quick access to different volumes. So if you have, music volume, phone volume, navigation system volume, and even Alexa volume, all of that is controlled from that little volume icon there. But there is one more screen, and that is a swipe in from the right, which is currently not working because we're not listening to any music. So let's turn on some music here. I am not getting this channel. Okay, there we go. So I got to turn that down. Okay, so now if I'm in, for instance, this screen, I can swipe in from the right and it shows me my music screen. I can even favorite that channel from there, which I would never do because it's country. But yeah, that's the other screen that comes up. Along the top edge, so lock and unlock is up there. This button will take us into this screen, which is the same as just swiping in from the left. This, remember, takes us to our user profiles. This button right here will record for basically the 2 minutes, the minute preceding and the minute after when pressing that button. And you press it again to stop it. This takes us to our garage door opener, so we can open the garage from this screen or add another one. This one right here takes us into the system, the voice recognition system. You can go to controls for that. This one right here is our notification button. So if something happened while the vehicle was parked, it'll actually have a little dot there, and then you can check to see what happened. It'll say like gear guard recorded an event or something like that. Or if there's a system update, it'll show up there as well. Here's our Bluetooth button. So if I tap that, it gives me my Bluetooth options. Right next to that is the wireless connection. Right next to that is the temperature outside. Tapping that does nothing. Right next to that is the signal strength that the car is getting for its internet connection. Next to that is the clock. Can't do anything from there, though. I kind of wish that just took you right to the clock settings. And then it's showing our passenger airbag system is turned off. And I think that is everything on the instrument cluster. Cool thing I forgot to mention about these lights. When you turn them on, they go to full brightness, like that. Press it again, gets a little dimmer. Press it again, turns off. So there's actually 3 levels of brightness. Okay, I think that's everything on the interior of the vehicle and everything on the exterior of the vehicle. I've probably missed a million things. It's still not showing an efficiency number here, so hopefully they fixed that. I don't know that they did, but on the drive we might see a change. But anyway, speaking of on the drive, let's take it for a rip. This thing is a hell of a lot of fun to drive. All right, driving this 2022 Rivian R1T, I mean, it's a joy to drive this vehicle. Right now, we're in the middle of a camping trip, and we're doing all sorts of different types of scenarios. We've got bumpy roads, smooth roads, long straight stretches, twisties, etc. And the great thing about the Rivian R1T is with its air suspension, you can adjust how high the vehicle rides, but also how smooth the vehicle rides. Let me show you. If I go to this menu here, you can see currently we're in conserve mode, which is front wheel drive, and we're at a low ride height. So it's a little bit on the bumpy side. But if I press this, it's now lifting the ride height to, as you can see, 28.7 centimeters. And it's gonna get a little bit smoother now. So yeah, just on the fly, I can change the ride height. And of course, I've got off-road modes as well, which I'll show you next. But for this mode, it's pretty light. I mean, there's not a whole lot of throttle response in conserve mode because obviously we're trying to save as much energy as we possibly can. But of course, with 835 horsepower, if I switch this to sport mode or all-purpose mode, it's an absolute beast. It flies. The acceleration is unbelievably good. Now, another thing that's really nice about driving this truck is that if the suspension is not that great and it can be adjusted with software, that means that a software update could potentially make it better. And that's exactly what happened recently. About a month ago, an update came out which actually drastically improved the ride quality of this vehicle. It was night and day. Anybody who owns a Rivian will know what I'm talking about. But smaller bumps at lower speeds, it improved significantly. What this vehicle really does excel at, though, is off-roading. And that's what we're going to do next. We're going to hit some trails, and I'll show you some pretty awesome capabilities. Of course, with all 4 motors being able to pull the vehicle through tight situations, it is really, really good. And at that point, we're going to switch to off-road mode. So let's go hit the trails.
I think you're gonna touch. It's just whether or not you want to do that.
Yeah. You're touching. You're touching. It's on it. I think the underside of your car is there.
You got skid plates.
It's actually, you're probably past the worst then.
Ooh, I think that is your front bumper.